It's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
Hello and welcome. He is Gary McNamara. I'm Eric Harley. As we begin a Monday, Gary, how are you?
I'm doing good. We got so much to talk about today. Debby, now a hurricane heading towards the Big Bend of Florida. We will keep you updated on that here throughout the morning. Will Iran be at war with Israel? We will chat about that. What happened? Why did the United States government, why did the Pentagon back off that deal for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed? And let's get Mount Rushmore ready if we can.
In a good place to make whatever decision, top of his game. Such a consequential president of the United States, a Mount Rushmore kind of president of the United States. Want to know what comes next.
That he belongs up there on Mount Rushmore. Lincoln and Joe Biden.
But you got Teddy Roosevelt up there, and he's wonderful. I don't say take him down, but you can add Biden.
Take him down!
Take Roosevelt down!
Take him down!
Put Biden up! Then why did you mention him if you didn't want...
I'm not saying take him down.
By the way, take him down as if you just... I should just pick it up, move it over, take it down.
It's just easily replaceable. The crew will be here in the morning. They'll be done by noon.
Right.
It's not that hard.
But let's take a look at a week ago. All right. When we look at everything right now, because her talking was actually a point that I wanted to make. Where were we a week ago? You and I were sitting here saying, "All right, this is really weird." The Democrats are attacking J.D. Vance, the vice president, and these things they keep throwing this stuff, and it keeps dying. It keeps dying. It keeps dying. They're not touching Trump. And it was just weird. And we also, at that point, stated out what the Democrats' philosophy was and still is today. Mm-hmm. And it is to not have her talk at all.
Yeah.
Just have her in important moments like the hostage release.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Have her say just a sentence as she did, but have all of her surrogates answer all of her questions.
Yep.
Where she never, for example, she's never said that she's reversed on all these core Democrat narratives.
No.
She hasn't said it herself. It's everybody else talking for her. The Democrats a week ago were looking at this saying, okay, we need to continue to attack. They were looking for something on Trump, but didn't have anything at that particular point, which is why they were going after J.D. Vance. We said at the time, Democrats are positive that Trump will self-destruct.
Yeah.
They are positive that he is his own worst enemy. That's what Democrats think. Mm-hmm. Democrats still think that today. In fact, they're overjoyed by the fact that they look at the Republican campaign and they look at it, you and I have talked about it. The ads are right there. The ads are hitting everything that they have to do. Now, I don't know what the frequency of those ads are as of yet, but they look at it and they say, okay, she's caught him in the polls now. He's self-destructing. I mean, the Brian Kemp thing over the weekend is mind-boggling.
Yeah.
Absolutely mind-boggling.
Right.
You shake your head. You're like, what the hell is he trying to do? You're trying to unite the Republican Party to beat it, and there he is going after Kemp and his wife and everything else. And as you know, Kemp is extremely successful, and nobody gives a damn about 2020. No independent's going to vote based on what you think about 2020.
No.
It's not going to matter. And, so Democrats believe that with the Brian Kemp thing, and as we said last week and got pushback for it, we were right, said Trump was completely wrong how he answered. Number one, he shouldn't be doing any, as I call it, enemy interviews at all. None. They should be done.
There's no reason to do those.
No reason to do it. what he said and how he responded when he had an opportunity. If you're going to do it, though, the opportunity would be, we don't deal with identity. None of those people that you talked about that I do anything because of their skin color. Instead, still over the weekend, he's tweeting and talking about, well, at one point she was Indian and now and we said, you can't win that. Stop it.
Yeah, that only blows back in your
Right.
face. There's nothing that wins anything for you on that. You can say, well, he's technically right on this or that. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't
politically,
matter.
It doesn't work.
Doesn't matter. Because that's all. I mean, you saw Byron Donalds on with Stephanopoulos. He just kept hit over and over and over and over and over again, as we said they would. And in a campaign, the entire goal, it doesn't matter whether you think you're right on this little particular point or not. What matters is, are you going after independents? Do independents care about this, care about it? And are you making brand new points? For example, if he would have come out, Republicans for the longest time have said, oh, yeah, Democrats use identity. And we know identity politics. That's what it's about. But he should have come out, as we stated last week, and said, without question, we don't play that game. This is the game you guys play. We don't play identity.
Yeah.
We don't care what your skin color is. We care what your policies are. And when you lose Michael Savage, did you see that? Michael Savage on Twitter?
Yeah.
When you lose Michael Savage, when he says Trump needs to stop the childish, personal, and this is before the Brian Kemp thing.
Yeah, that was last week, actually, the Savage thing.
He needs to stop the childish attacks, the personal attacks on her, get out of talking identity and get talking about all the issues at hand. And so what Democrats think right now is that Trump himself, not the campaign. The campaign is putting out effective commercials, as we have said before. I don't know their frequency, though. But Democrats are looking at it right now and saying, just as we expected, Trump's self-destructing. Now, is there time for Trump to get it back? Absolutely. He needs to be giving, speaking of Mount Rushmore speeches every single day. Mount Rushmore speeches. They need to stop worrying about doing massive rallies. Republicans are under the delusion that massive rallies win you, and I don't mean all Republicans, but I mean the campaign and Trump and his surrogates, because you see it all the time. Trump's was bigger than Kamala Harris's. Look, Trump got 30,000. Harris got 68. That doesn't mean anything in an election. Doesn't mean a damn thing. Mm-hmm. It may show that you have some energy, but as we have learned, the size of rallies don't matter. But it seems to be a talking point. Mine is bigger than yours, when the goal is, it doesn't matter whether you have a quarterback. Dan Marino threw for 1 billion yards, never won the Super Bowl.
Well, I remember when Romo was traded to CBS for Mark Harmon, and I think that's how it went down. I don't follow sports, but everybody was like, look at his stats. Look at his stats. Stats don't mean anything. What everybody looks at, what the fans look at is, did you win a Super Bowl for us?
Yeah. Yep. It's all that matters. All that matters. And so that's what Democrats are thinking right now. Democrats are thinking right now, just as we expected, Trump is his own worst enemy. Mm-hmm. As we've said, the worst enemy for the Democrats is reality. Well, and that's why Trump still has a great chance to come out. And I would like him to do what we suggested in 2016 and 2020. You come out with commercials that say, I'm a builder. I build things. Democrats destroy things.
And you paint the airwaves and every digital source you can find with those.
With those, and
just smother them.
And her in her own words, and that she's afraid to come out and tell you what she believes. She has other people talking for her because she doesn't believe, who knows what she believes, but we believe, because she's been a long-held Democrat, that she's lying to you, and say lying to you. Mm-hmm. Say it. But then the other ads, Trump, I just saw an ad now with Trump with the White House, and it says fake news. That was the first ad I saw I don't know how widespread it is, but I said, nope, not the right ad. Not the right ad. The right ad right now would be Trump walking through with skyscrapers, things that's, you don't even need to say Trump Tower, but just construction going on. I've been building things my entire life. Democrats destroy things. But for some reason, I can't figure it out. I mean, we come to expect it, though, those moments where you go, oh, God, stop it, please. And you had those moments last week. They don't make any sense at all in a campaign. And for every single news source I have seen have said none of this is the scripted stuff he's being given. That even as a campaign is going, what the hell is he doing? What in the hell? Like the Brian Kemp remarks, not the script.
Yeah, there's nobody that would in their right mind write that on the script.
In Georgia.
And you lose that all day long because the Republicans of Georgia support Brian Kemp.
Yeah, whether you like it or not. And if you want to win Georgia, that's where you have to patch things up.
Well, it's one of the things that we saw, and I thought, and I wondered, okay, do you look at things of the past and say, all right, we're going to, now it's, we're going to get into this whole strange bedfellows thing with this phase of the campaign, because you're going to need governors that are on your side that will support you on things. Not only do you need your party on Capitol Hill, you need your party in the states. And so when we looked at DeSantis and that whole thing, it was like, all right, DeSantis knows how it's played. And certainly Trump knows how important Florida is.
Well, and even
Georgia.
And Wall Street Journal saying Brian Kemp was willing to go and campaign for him.
I hadn't seen anything that showed that there was any existing rift before this weekend. Nothing.
And it's just, you shake your head.
And now you've got the governor of Georgia having to go out, and then how do you expect him to be a surrogate in that state for you when the only question to him is going to be, what do you think of what he said about you? Yeah. Over and over again between now and November 5th. That will be the only question for Governor Kemp.
Yeah, and like I said, it doesn't matter whether you believe you're right or not. It's whether the focus is on you. And what you don't want in this campaign, when the focus was clearly on Joe Biden, and then you have the opportunity, because Trump was extremely, this has been up until was it Wednesday when he did it? Up until last Wednesday, Trump, I thought, has done a tremendous campaign. You focus on inflation. You focus on the border. You focus on, they're out there saying that, Kamala Harris is tougher on the border. Nobody buys it. You see the CBS polling? Everybody believes Harris is just like Biden.
Yeah, right.
The vast majority, if you're talking 80%, think he's just like him or even worse than him. Right. Only 18% think he's so there's nobody. You've got that landslide numbers. Trump on the issues is still leading. For the life of me, you stick to the damn issues, and then you go out and you say, I'm a builder, and you have him walking in front of construction sites and talking to construction people. And, well, forget about anything that we had said, how the Republicans should approach race, because that's long gone after last Wednesday.
Yeah.
That's history.
Right.
That whole thing is, that whole thing that we said how they should approach it.
The only thing you can do now is just move on.
Yeah.
And the best thing you can do is move on.
And by the way, there's plenty of opportunity to move on.
Mm-hmm.
Iran may dominate, may dominate today. But on a weekend when the discussion should have been, what the number one topic should have been besides Iran? And besides, Trump pounding on them for now, there's a possibility of war with Iran, and we've been funding Iran, right? That would be one. The other one was, my God, do they have any idea what they're doing? First, they say we've got a deal with the 9/11 conspirators. Now they don't. They don't know what the hell they're doing up there. And then the other thing that should have been the number one issue, Trump promoting the fact of no taxes if you're on Social Security. Those should have been the three things that you heard all weekend, and it wasn't.
Yeah. Look, we knew. I said something last Monday to the effect of, or maybe question throughout a question, what is her tactic, or what is the campaign for Kamala Harris? What is their tactic going to be? Is it going to be just let her wave and smile, keep the cameras at bay, and then all of her surrogates do the talking? So far, yes, that's it. And even one liberal media group, I forget who it was where I read it, but there was a liberal media group over the weekend where I read where they mentioned in their article that she hasn't done any one-on-one or anything with the media.
No?
And we're at a point where later today, it's going to be sealed. The deal is sealed. She's the nominee. We'll know soon who her VP pick is going to be. And still no talking to the media. Oh, they also mentioned in that same article, she has to line out her agenda that is separate, stands apart from Biden. What is it it's something we've asked. What does she want to promote that is not part of the Biden administration?
Oh, that fracking is okay, which we know is a lie. That she's tough around the border and will be tough around the border than he is. The surrogates are out there big time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, they're out there.
Surrogates are out there big time.
But she's not, and she has to lay it out. You're the head of the campaign. You're the face of the campaign. You're it. You're the nominee.
Well, they're looking and they're saying we don't believe she does.
No. Well,
the Democrats believe
either that or we can't put her out there because every time we do, she gets into a word salad and just kills it.
But they also believe they don't need to because the RCP poll shows her up 0.2.
Mm-hmm.
That all the momentum, we don't believe any particular poll, and we believe there's some questions to be asked on it. But the fact is the momentum across the board has gone her way. And that's what they're thinking. We don't need to put her out there. Yeah, she can't be out there. We understand that. But we don't need to put her out because Trump is self-destructing.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can that change? Oh, absolutely, it can change.
That's going to have to change.
Well, look at today. If the stock market takes a hit that it could take today, good God, it was the biggest drop for the Japanese stock market since '87, and we're down over 300 points when I last checked for the Dow today.
Yeah,
so all of a sudden
and the NASDAQ in correction territory on Friday.
866-90 Red Eye.
This report is brought to you by Shell Rotella. With advanced synthetic technology, is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance. Keep your engine humming in the heat this summer by keeping up with preventive maintenance. Think your PM is complete after your oil is changed? Think again. There's grease, transmission fluids, and gear oil to consider too. Transmission fluid, for example, prevents wear of gears, bearings, and bushings, protects against corrosion, and acts as a heat transfer fluid. You may not think about this every time you get behind the wheel, but as soon as it's not doing its job, you'll notice. Misapplication of transmission fluid can mean reduced fuel economy and abrupt or hard shifts if the static friction is too high. It can also cause sluggish operation at low temperatures if the viscosity is too high and leaking through seals if viscosity is too low.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley. I'm Gary McNamara. For example, the former president tonight pounding on the Japan stock market and the futures, which you should be.
Yeah,
I mean that's the correct thing. But he still has look. There's this thing is not over. And we'll tell you why it's not over because people still understand where she stands on the issues. She's something new. I did see Howard Kurtz though. Did you see Howard Kurtz saying that? Apparently one of his focus groups was stating that she's young and thoughtful.
Yeah.
When you don't speak, that's what people think you are.
Right. Well, it's the same idea as what was behind Hope and Change. If it's blank, which means no speaking for her, then you just paint the picture, in their mind for them.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
And he is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thank you for being here. So, yeah, I think last week was Trump's worst of campaigning so far. And so do and by the way, so do the Democrats. When you and I were talking about during the break when he came out last week, and I was shaking my head because it was late. It was Friday, I think, when he said no taxes for Social Security.
Yeah.
Many people may not know how big that is because they're not as old as I am. Some are. I remember when they started taxing Social Security.
Mm-hmm.
It was not popular at all. And you can run with that like you can't believe. Why are you being taxed on something that you put in for your retirement your entire life when you're on a fixed income?
Right.
And it's not corporate. It's not, you can't, it's a kind of a tax where once you come out first for it to repeal it, nobody else can be in second place on it. And I just shook my head on Friday. I said, this is going to get totally drowned out by the whole, black journalist interview from last week. And it did.
Mm-hmm.
And they need to bring it back again and pound on it over and over. The surrogates have to be out doing it, but it's tough. We've said part of the problem is that the whole goal of a presidential campaign, any campaign, is to have the media focused on your opposition.
Right.
That they're talking about your opposition, because if they're doing it, odds are it's not good. Maybe once in a while it's good, but as you saw with Biden, it's always bad. It is going to come back. As you saw, we'll even play CNN talking about, to one of the surrogates of Kamala Harris, but she's flipped on everything. It's like, oh, that's because she's grown as a human being.
Yeah, right.
And and that's where you get the probably, well, she's thoughtful because now she's reconsidering well, we all know she's lying.
Yeah, she grappled. She evolved.
Right. But the focus should be on her flip-flopping. But you had Trump hand the Democrats these things. Hand them. Here, take it. Let's have infighting within the Georgia Republican Party now.
Right.
I mean, it's madness. It's absolute madness. And the other thing is, too, and I mentioned it before because there were a lot of his surrogates on Twitter defending him. Well, Kamala Harris did say that she was an Indian, and then but she said that, and it's like, stop it. It's almost as if there's a part of, and I won't say necessarily conservative, but there's enough of the populace out there that believe that screaming and yelling is more important than winning. And as you can see with the Democrats right now, all they care about is winning. They'll do anything to win, including lie about where they stand on every single major issue. And
they know they die on the issues, and that's why you've got to keep everything off of the issues. It's got to be about exactly what Trump handed them last Wednesday. It's got to be about anything else but the issues. And when you stay on the issues, promote things you want to do in your second term, promote the accomplishments of your first term, over and over again. Repeat, 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 repeat. November 6th, say what you want.
Yeah. Why? Right here. Here's why. And by the way, here's why Trump still has a great chance of winning in November. Mm-hmm. Here we go. This is the CBS poll that came out over the weekend.
That's really important because some things in this race have not changed. The idea that you would be better off financially if Trump were elected, Trump still has a big advantage over now Kamala Harris on that. And the idea that his policies would slow or decrease the number of migrants trying to cross the border, that he still has an edge on. That's
edge. Nearly half of voters say Trump's policies will make them financially better off compared to 25% for Kamala. So almost a 25-point lead there. 3/4 say illegal border crossings will go down if President Trump wins. 18% for Kamala Harris. That's 75 to 18. When it comes to where her policies are, here we go. All right.
There's a larger number who say they think her policies are similar, mostly the same, but not entirely the same as Joe Biden's. So it's that little bit of difference defining what that is that I do think is going to be key to watch in the campaign in the next few weeks.
Yeah, let me just get the actual number there. 64% believe that Harris and Biden, their policies are mostly the same. 18% of that entirely the same. So you have roughly 84%. Is that 82%? 82% that believe entirely or mostly the same.
Yeah.
So you have it. The public understands where she is. It's up to you to define it every single day and be so focused. None of Trump's speeches at any rally should be over 20 minutes.
No.
Bring whoever else you want on. Bring, have Kid Rock play another show. 20 minutes off. Never go off the teleprompter.
Well,
and you focus on the fact that
you flood the airwaves and digital with ads every single day. Again, your accomplishments and the things you want to do with the Social Security and taxes thing. The first time I saw it, it was either Friday night or Saturday morning. I said to myself, "Man, this should catch fire," and then immediately said to myself, "But it won't." The reason you float it early in the weekend, you're hoping on a Friday, that the Sunday morning shows will fact check it for you because it'll stand up to any fact checking. That's a winner all day long when you promote that idea of ending taxation on Social Security. And yet they're not, this is something that they don't have to get to. Because they've got race to talk about. You hand them something again, it's been played out by the left over and over again, and it really gets tiresome until it's renewed. You give them something new to chew on. That's what you did. And it doesn't have to be that way. There has to be a very strong correction here. And it has to be a very strong focus between now and November 5th. You stand apart from her, it's light years. And I can't tell you, something that's gone through my head a number of times over the last week. I can't tell you how to measure how tragic it would be if Kamala Harris beats Donald Trump after all of this. In such a horrible economy. I hope and pray it doesn't happen. Let's not give it any possibility. Let's steal every moment for. We go back to 2020, Wall Street Journal editorial board. Keep in mind, that was the editorial board back then. Saying, you need to go over this list of accomplishments over and over again. You do that and you win. Repeat all the things you accomplished. And nobody cares about anything else. There's nothing that impacts you based on any of his comments from Wednesday. It only feeds the left, and that's the only chatter that anybody else hears.
Yeah.
Over and over again. I mean, it is the repeated message from the left, and they were struggling. They were going after J.D. Vance. They couldn't even stay on J.D. Vance's weird for long. They couldn't do it because people did their homework. What's so weird about the guy? Oh, nothing. You mean he's normal? Nothing weird about the guy.
Yeah, we said a week ago today how weird it was that they're pounding Harris with the ads and everything else, and it's and they're going after J.D. Vance for stupid stuff, and we're just like, wow, and. We had said last week, though, at that time, but Democrats are still hoping, still believing, not hoping, they believe that what happened in 2020 can happen again. Mm-hmm. And that is the fact that they believe Trump will destroy his own campaign. Mm-hmm. And after what happened last week and over the weekend, they view and say, see, we're right. Now, what they're underestimating is, number one, where the economy is going to be. Number two, the fact of, all right, there may be some euphoria now. I even saw, who was it? I forgot. It was one of the Democrat over the weekend. I forgot who it was. I'll find it here. Came off and said, he was like, guys, stop it. There's a little bit too much exuberance. She still has a ton of problems out there. And it is true, because as you can see from the CBS poll, the polling on the issues hasn't changed at all. In fact, the majority of people believe she is Biden on the issues. All you have to do is tell them, I'm not Biden, she is.
Yep.
And that's where you win. She believes what Biden believes. And so, is this recoverable? Yeah, I said it last week that it was recoverable, and even the Brian Kemp thing is recoverable. All of it's recoverable because we're in such a horrible situation in this country right now across the board where everything looks like it's broken. So the Republican candidate for president can't look like he's broken.
Well, and again, and he was, he even put out on Truth Social over the weekend, we have to stop going after our own candidates. The same weekend that he went after Kemp.
I know.
It's like, you get it, or you do sometimes. You either get it and then forget it, or you get it, or what you posted on Truth Social you don't believe. I don't know. I don't know how to repair what's going on with Kemp. You're going to have to. That's going to take some work, but it can't happen again. I mean, it really was a throwback. It was like, are we back in 2020? Is this a comment from 2020? Are they bringing something that he said back in 20? They were doing that with J.D. Vance and the whole cat lady thing. Is this from years ago? Or is this from now? Oh, it was. I had to double check. I had to triple check. Nope, it's current. And you're fighting for Georgia. But more importantly, you're fighting for a consensus by Republican governors. You're going to need that as president. On your agenda, you're going to need it. And now what you've handed Governor Kemp is every single question. What do you think about what he said about you? What do you think about what he said about you? What do you think about what he said about you? What do you think? What do you think? Huh?
Yeah, it makes it impossible for him to campaign.
How is he going to be a surrogate for you?
Right. And he already said he's voting for the nominee, so he's voting for Trump.
Right.
Like I said, that the sources were saying he was ready to campaign for him and be seen with him to put it all away, and then boom. And you need Georgia.
Yep.
You need everything right now.
You need everything. Like you're 50 points behind.
Yep. 866-90-RED-EYE.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Okay, Hurricane Debby. It's Hurricane Debby now, just over a Cat 1, anything over 74 miles an hour, 75 miles an hour right now, as it, dayfall landing, Big Bend area of Texas, where the Panhandle hits the...
Florida.
What'd I say?
Texas.
Oh, sorry.
If there's a hurricane hitting the Panhandle of Texas, we're all doomed.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, that would be a problem.
Yeah. Look out, Lubbock. Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. Yes, of Florida. Friends of mine live in the Tampa area, saw just tons.
Yeah.
You saw the rain bands.
Yeah.
And they may not have got the brunt of the storm, but the rain bands themselves, friends of mine reported flooding in their homes and flooding in their area.
Yeah.
Big time in the Tampa area.
Yeah, just looking at the map and the rainfall forecast, I mean, it's pretty, as it often is when it comes in like that with Florida. Unfortunately, Florida has dealt with this kind of storm before, but even at a level 1 hurricane, we've talked about it. It is flooding that is the greatest risk and does the greatest harm to humans and damage overall. And that's something that you have to heed those warnings. As Debby making landfall, in a matter of hours? So it's, now just a couple hours ago that it was upgraded to a hurricane?
Yeah, a couple hours ago. I think I think it was the 8 p.m. Yeah, because 11 p.m. still shows 75 miles an hour.
Right.
I believe it was when I was sleeping. So
right. Yeah.
That it had hurricane status.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, they're expecting, tons of rain into Georgia. It's just, even Georgia places 12 inches of rain they're expecting.
Yeah.
It's a lot of rain.
Yep.
Top of the Hour News is brought to you by House Products. Visit houseproducts.com.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the planet, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just to let you know, Hurricane Debby now 80-mile-an-hour winds, consistent winds. A Category 1 hurricane as it approaches the Florida coast. I did say I said Florida. I'm like, did I say Florida? Not Texas. After saying the Texas Panhandle before. But so that's the latest that we have, and just massive amounts of rain. You see those rain bands, and that's the problem, the rain that it's dropping.
Well, and what they expect it to do, what Debby is expected to do, it is going to gain some strength before making landfall here over the next few hours. But then as it moves inland, it will lose strength, but it will slow down. So watching the forecast here for some of the rain in the Carolinas, and they mentioned the word Friday, and I thought, Friday? It's only Monday now.
And we've just got to Monday.
Yeah, and so you look at that and how slowly they expect it to move, and so heavy rain is going to continue to be the threat, and is always the greatest danger of any hurricane in terms of flooding overall, not necessarily rain, but the flooding from rain and storm surges, and those storm surges could be 6 to 10 feet in some areas as Debby makes landfall there in Florida. But wow, it's just the power of these storms never ceases to amaze me, and that's a good thing, by the way, because everyone should take every one of these warnings. You could, even if you've lived in Florida all of your life, always take these warnings and precautions seriously. It's always best practice.
One of the things we talked about was still on all the issues. Kamala Harris has a huge hill to climb.
Yeah.
The public knows where she stands. We told you the latest on the CBS poll out there. It really hasn't changed much, whether it's her or Biden. Mm-hmm. People still believe that she's just like Biden.
Yeah.
And on the issues, the major issues, the economy and the border, landslide numbers agree that Trump would be a better president. Right. So it's important to understand that even though Trump didn't have his best week last week, in fact, he said his worst week of campaigning this year, I think, last week. But is it recoverable? Absolutely. Why? Well, as we've just told you, the people know where she stands. Now, she's attempting to flip-flop on everything, and her surrogates are out there trying to defend her. She's not out there defending herself. The surrogates are out there.
Right.
They have decided it's been 2 full weeks where no interviews, no press conferences, nothing like that.
Right.
I'll make a statement, turn around and walk away, and, that's it. This is on CNN yesterday, State of the Union, Dana Bash with a Democratic Representative LaFonza Butler, who is making the case that even though she is flip-flopped on every single major issue, we have no worries whatsoever.
In the 2020 primary, the vice president praised the defund the police movement, and now she says she doesn't support defunding the police. She called for decriminalizing crossing the border illegally. Now she supports President Biden's policies for clamping down at the border. She supported Medicare for all at one point, eliminating private insurance, and her campaign says she doesn't support that now. She's reversed herself on a fracking ban. What do you think that voters should think when she's reversed herself on several issues just in the last 4 years?
I think that voters should think that she's a human being who learns new things every single day and has the ability to take the time and effort to hear the concerns of all people. I think that they should be certain that she is a fighter and a leader who's going to do the work on their behalf to.
There you go. I mean, it's
well,
blah,
you
blah,
just
blah,
paint
blah,
the picture of a blank canvas. That's
right.
That's the only thing you do if you're one of her surrogates, and they get away with it because people don't pay attention like we do, like our audience does. We know that this doesn't resonate at all with our audience.
Well, it doesn't so far, according to the polls, with the American public yet, because the polls are basically the same whether it's her or Biden.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And like I said, that's the big disconnect.
Yeah.
That's tough to figure out. Why would somebody believe that Trump would be so much better on the economy and the border, which are the two biggest issues out there, and vote for Harris?
Right. Well, that's the thing, is that if they believe, that they can get away with this, then you keep promoting this for the undecideds, some of whom will still be undecided a week before the election. But it's reality doesn't change. Inflation isn't gone. Watching the futures right now, wow. NASDAQ futures down 5.6%. That's over 1,000 points on the NASDAQ. That's massive. That is, let's hope it doesn't hold. The futures don't always hold. Something happens during the day on earnings or something else, and it changes, and it's either not as bad at the end of the trading day, or, it just doesn't come to fruition at all because of something that turns it around completely. I don't know what would turn it around, it being 1,048 points as we speak right now on the NASDAQ, down 1,000 points. Dow futures down 531. As I was saying, that NASDAQ futures jumped up about 48 points. That's funny. Maybe I'm turning it around. Maybe I'll just keep talking about it.
That's why, remember, that's why, what was it, inflation or the stock? What was it? Remember when the Democrats said it's happening because we're talking about it? Was that inflation?
Yeah, it was inflation. Okay. If you quit talking about inflation, it won't keep happening. Yeah, that's not how inflation works. Although you look at the, I wish it were, the entire equation here on the economy is very clear. It is reality. What the stock market is looking at are real things. They're not looking at something, hoping for something this time. They're not investing ahead of what they think might happen necessarily. They're looking at data that shows them right now what's going on with the economy, and it shows a slowdown. Is it a recession? You can only see a recession in the rear view. Unless we're going to redefine what a recession is again on the left, which they've done. But when you look at it, it's still not good. Whether we're technically in a recession, you're seeing layoffs right now. You're seeing employers slow way down on hiring. And as such, and we said this was eventually it's going to happen because you go through these cycles in the economy. We've seen it before. But people thinking, well, I can pretty much name my price, or at the very least, I can play it a little bit looser than I normally do because I know I can go find a job somewhere else. The Wall Street Journal pointing out about a week and a half ago that is gone. That's not in play anymore.
You see the Tokyo Stock Exchange?
Yeah.
Down. They were down 7 points, which would have been the lowest since 87.
Mm-hmm.
They're down right now 13.1%.
Yep. Down 4,703 points as we speak on the Nikkei. That's brutal. You got to go back to, as they said, you got to go back to 87.
And that was when they were down 7%.
Yeah, I don't know how far back you got to go now.
Yeah. And this will dominate. Like I said, economic things like this is what will dominate. All the other stuff will sort of blow away. And that's why I said, when it comes to the economy, and you look at, like I said, the economic numbers and the border numbers for Trump are so massive, where this is the kind of thing that changes everything. Well, this is the kind of thing that starts to change. I mean, you've got the shiny new object to look at, and understand that. Remember, Americans are looking at. Trump gets out there and gives an hour and a half speech, believing the whole world wants to hear it. Mm-hmm. They don't.
Right.
Now, his supporters might, but that's not who you're going after, not even in the rallies now, because what you say at the rallies now will be a part of the daily news, and everything needs to be focused on, everything needs to be focused on what 70 to 80% of the Americans agree on, which is your base to begin with.
Right.
But it's all on the issues. If you stick to the issues, you win.
And especially right now, I mean, if we're getting into deep correction territory on the stock market, and people are seeing that in their 401ks, but they're also seeing layoffs and everything else, the reason behind these huge drops on the Dow and the NASDAQ, then you have to remind them, listen, we had an economy that was growing. During my time as president, we were actually creating jobs, and we were expanding wealth and the buying power for everyone. And you repeat that over and over again, because it's true. We wanted to seal the border, and we couldn't get any support. Now we have the support of the overwhelming majority of Americans. All we need is your vote.
Where even Kamala Harris had to change her mind.
Exactly.
Now, we don't believe her, but that's how successful we were during our administration.
Right.
Like I said, that the frustrating part for me is over the last couple of days is you have everything that you need to win.
Yep.
And you don't use it.
Well, and, you're going to get into a situation that, could help erase some of the negative effects of a bad campaigning week from last week, where things are going to take precedent in the news, and you have to capitalize on those. But that has to be a proactive move by everyone in your campaign. First and foremost, you.
By the way, the everything that we see overnight and over in Japan is based on the job numbers on Friday here in the United States.
Right.
That we didn't even get a chance to get. I thought about that. I went, I just assumed we talked about it. No, it happened after we were on the air.
Right.
Sometimes Friday seems like it's 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. We actually talked about this on Friday. Because we get to Sunday and do Show Prep Sunday, and it's like, that's old news. But of course, it's relevant because we haven't broken down the unemployment report, the jobs report from Friday.
And we will get to that.
Yeah.
Since we're talking about this,
it wasn't good.
No,
look,
it wasn't.
One of the indicators that I saw, and I didn't see anybody I don't really trust a lot of or any analysis from CNBC. They're so liberal. But Berkshire Hathaway and some of their positions and what they've sold recently. And Warren Buffett has a habit of this. And this is how he's made so much money. You buy low, you sell high. So if they see a storm coming, and then all of a sudden they're offloading, big brand names and stock, Apple, Bank of America, they believe, okay, those stocks have peaked. And also, my question would be, do they believe there's a recession coming and that's going to hurt those stocks for longer than a minute? I don't know. I can't tell you. But you see these indicators leading up to this. and the very fundamentals of what's going on with an economy. And that is, people are struggling.
Well, remember, you had the Dow go down a point and a half, 612 points lower. NASDAQ was down 2.4%. S&P 500 declined 1.8%. That was on Friday.
Yeah.
So everybody took a hit on their 401k. And this is the kind of week you look at and you go, oh, man, no, what's going to happen? And you just don't know.
Yeah.
You know, we haven't looked at the numbers at all and said the numbers are great ever in the last year.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, on Friday, the NASDAQ fell into correction territory, and if the futures hold for today, it's going to be a lot worse.
Yeah, I'm just looking here. At least interest rates will be lower soon from CNN Business.
Drop them back to zero in one move. I mean, seriously, because this is what gets the attention of a Jerome Powell. It's like, well, but what does it do long term? You're only adding to inflation long term. It's, there's only so many moves you can make. You saw Elizabeth Warren on Friday. He needs to drop interest rates now. I mean, I saw that with the media. The chant became, oh, no, he'll definitely drop rates now. He'll definitely drop. And then she came out and I thought, okay, there's your political will to get that done. And so now, I don't know how much it would be, quarter of a point. I don't know if they go a full half a point. I guess it depends on how much damage is done between now and the next meeting. I really don't know. But the last word was from this meeting last week, yeah, well, he could drop it. They could decide to drop it in September. So we'll see if that happens.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by FPPF, Fuel Power Max.
Uncompensated detention at docks frustrates drivers of all stripes. If you're an owner-operator, you have at least some control over the matter. Make the subject a standard part of your rate and/or contract negotiations on the front end. You can use your own numbers to calculate an hourly rate to compensate for lost income opportunity, as well as fixed costs, which don't stop when the truck stops. Those two elements of a fair detention rate were deemed appropriate by most of Overdrive's audience almost a decade ago. We've used income, fixed costs, and miles average of our owner-operator business services from ATBS's clients to compute an average $64 an hour detention rate then. And 10 years later, the figure is $83 an hour. Use your own numbers to calculate your rate. A simple conversation with any broker or shipper or your carrier if you're leased about what you're putting in the rate might yield results you don't expect. Owner-Operator Business 101 is provided by Overdrive's Partners in Business program. Go to overdriveonline.com to the Partners in Business section of the website for more details on this and many other topics.
Brought to you by Shell Rotella, with advanced synthetic technology is designed to help keep your rig running with more mileage and less maintenance.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. If this keeps up, nobody will remember anything that happened last week, will they?
I mean, if you look at right now what's going on, potentially what this could be Monday on the stock market.
And at the same time, if Iran attacks Israel today.
Oh, yeah. Which was, started to brew up Friday and then into Saturday. And then Sunday really ramped up. And so it's something that was really anticipated. We just don't know what the level of attack might be. What's going on right now, in the big game with Israel in terms of, what their strategy might be. I don't know. Clearly, it was always going to happen when you kill the leader of Hamas and you've killed the leader of Hezbollah, and you're, this is, and last week, at the end of last week, I would think it was Thursday, in Tehran, they raised the red flag of revenge, as they call it, which to me is in part also the bat signal for all of their proxies. it's time for a major attack. And so the question is, how major will it be? And what intel does Israel have? What intel does the U.S. have?
Right. I was talking about its effect on the stock market if it happens this week. But, yeah, getting into the specifics of it, I mean, the Trump campaign better be ready that if this happens to say, what we will have to do to back up Israel comes from the fact that the Biden-Harris administration, that's what you say all the time. You say the Biden-Harris administration are the ones that have ensured that Iran has money for this attack because the Biden-Harris administration ensured that they were funded.
Yep.
The show that never stops. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Download our Red Eye Radio app today. Listen when and where you choose if you can't listen live overnight. It's just the weekend is so long that you and I were talking about the stock market and realized, we never talked about the job numbers on Friday. Because it's Friday is such a long time ago. It's like, didn't we talk about that already? Nope.
Yeah.
Unemployment rate rose by 2 percentage points to 4.3% in July. Number of people unemployed increased by 352,000 to 7.2 million. A year ago, 3.5% unemployment rate and 5.9 million unemployed. The one that I saw that was fascinating, the number of people employed part-time for economic reasons rose 346,000 to 4.6 million. These individuals who would have preferred full-time employment were working part-time because their hours had been reduced or they were unable to find full-time jobs. The number of people not in the labor force who currently want a job increased by 366,000 to 5.6 million in July, largely offsetting a decline in the previous month. These individuals were not counted as unemployed because they were not actively looking for work during the 4 weeks preceding the survey or were unavailable to take a job. So, yeah, it's I just wondered, did they have in there how many part-time jobs were created versus the full-time? That's the whole thing I'm looking for.
I did not see that, but I do know that last month it was the overwhelming majority of them were part-time jobs.
Part-time jobs, right, right.
You get into the summer months, and that tends to be a trend, of course, with younger people. I'm noticing over the weekend, just anecdotally, making a few stops over the weekend in businesses and noticing a lot of younger people that are working, of course, at my age. That's pretty easy to notice. But it is one of those, it's that time of the year when they get into that. And then August, there's a huge slowdown because they're back to school, whether it's college or high school students. And they're right now, you look at where things are going, what employers are looking at, and you can't invest heavily in people. When inflation hits any business, they're going to have to do the same thing we all do, and they're going to have to cut back all of their costs. And you cut back on the hiring. You move toward retention of employees to every extent possible because that'll save you money. They cost thousands of dollars for every new hire. And you can't afford that. You can't have this revolving door.
The employment report showed the increase in annual wages last month was the smallest in more than 3 years. Non-farm payrolls increased by 114,000. That was well below the 215,000 jobs per month added over the last 12 months. And at least the 200,000 economists are saying are needed to keep up with job growth in the population.
Yeah, right.
They thought it was going to go up by 175,000 jobs.
Yeah, that was the market prediction, the median forecast, and you get below that 150 mark, and again, you have to ask, all right, what does August look like? What does the rest of the year look like? And look, with the whole thing on interest rates, the price of money, it was everywhere on Friday, all day on Friday. Then Elizabeth Warren coming out. They need to drop interest rates right away. Well, you're not going to get another meeting until September. So that's what everybody believes now, is that there will be a rate cut. I don't know how far you go on a rate cut. Again, it depends on the damage here. But this is the kind of, because I didn't see it happening this year at all. Because it was more of a wish thing. Well, maybe, yeah. And it was more of a people, basically analysts, doing this rally cry of, yeah, rate cut. Yeah, there's definitely going to be a rate cut. Well, now when you see the economy slow down, if they get into a point, into a place where there is a consensus that we are in a recession, then there's no doubt they'll get to a rate cut. The problem is that you still have inflation. And it will be interesting to see what inflation does for the rest of the year.
Well, what I wonder is, now they say people are finally running out of COVID money. How does that affect it? And we know that affected spending last month.
Yeah, this is something that Jamie Dimon, the CEO of J.P. Morgan Chase, had talked about over a year and a half ago. He said, we're going to see the dwindling down of any savings that was built during the COVID years. And people did have savings built up. And then what you see after that is the increase in revolving credit card accounts. And we've seen that grow to a record cumulative total of well over $1 trillion. And delinquencies beyond that, the payments on those credit cards and other things that are financed through credit. And you see those delinquencies getting longer and longer. And again, with the price of money, borrowing for investment for any business, big or small, it's more expensive. Higher interest rates means more expensive. But on top of that, inflation on everything else then has you at some point having to do what companies are doing. You're going to have to become more efficient, and that includes layoffs. We saw it last week, some of the media looking at layoffs. I think one of the stories was from Good Morning America and layoffs there. It's really going to be, I think, across all sectors.
Well, Intel, 15% of its workforce.
Yep. Now, the tech companies are hitting, I think, a pretty big wall. And I'd love to see what's, the biggest driver behind that. There's a number of drivers behind it. But again, if people can't afford to get out there, if companies can't afford to invest in technology, in newer devices. One of the things that happened during COVID, it happened immediately out of necessity. You got to work from home. Well, you need equipment to work from home. Boom. Through the roof, people were buying devices. I mean, it was insane. But then at some point, again, that spending catches up. You have inflation, then higher interest rates, and you're going to see that slowdown. And that's just the way it's going to be. Investment in that technology is going to be scaled back by individuals and companies alike. So it is, it's, let's hope it's short-lived.
Well, we're here. Intel executives told employees Thursday evening that the company's leaders genuinely believed they had hit rock bottom last year and began climbing back. Years of poor results were behind the chip maker, they thought, and a sales rebound they had long planned for was finally at hand. The growth they anticipated this year, though, did not materialize, and Intel warned Thursday that it expects sales to fall even further during the current quarter. The company badly lags its rivals in the market for artificial intelligence technology and is losing market share in the PC and data center sectors. Mm-hmm. So, you overall, I mean, again, we're in a time right now where you're not sure what's going to happen. Eric, there was so much money thrown in. We had such loose monetary policy and so much money was thrown in to the economy. I mean, I'm not surprised by what we're seeing right now, but I don't know what to expect. We've done so many things that government has done to manipulate the economy where I don't know what the response of the economy is going to be, but it's not going to be good, whatever it is. No. It's the degree of bad, though. That's what I think the great unknown is. At least for me, how I look at it. I don't know on so much because there's so much that was done that was unprecedented in American history with the kind of money that was thrown about. The thing was, we had talked about a couple of weeks ago. You think, well, what about the infrastructure bill and all the money from government? It's like they can't spend it because of all the wokeness.
No, I mean,
and we talked about that a couple of weeks ago. They're like everything has to be approved and double approved and quadruple approved and quintupled approved. It's like,
well, and I see these sponsored things that come up. They rise up in the algorithm on Google or wherever you and I look at stories, a number of different sources, but these and it's always a kind of an off publication maybe that's doing it. It's not the major media that's doing it. That's one of the first tells. And I'm always interested in how they're promoting it, but clearly it's a sponsored ad-driven thing from the federal government, which is on the Inflation Reduction Act. The government will pay you to change the HVAC system in your home and blah, blah, blah. And then you go through the list of things they put in the article, and it's all things that cost thousands of dollars in order to get the tax benefit. And people don't have that money. It's, again, this idea. They did this when the Inflation Reduction Act was first being promoted, but then also after it passed. Look, if you just go spend, then you'll save money. Well, that's not how it works. That's not how it works at all. If you happen to be in the market for one of those items, that's one thing. But it's not going to spur that kind of growth. It never was.
866-90-RED-EYE.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90-RED-EYE.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Welcome and good morning. Thanks so much for being here. Just an update, and we'll keep you updated throughout the morning on it. You have Hurricane Debby now a Cat 1, 80 miles an hour. Mm-hmm. We'll hit shore sometime this morning.
Yeah.
So there's where we are right now. And just tons of rain people are getting, and it'll be slowing down as it hits. And oh, man, saw Georgia, some of the estimates for Georgia, 12-plus inches of rain.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah, they expect it to move very slowly across that region over the next few days. I mean, again, in some of these advisories from the National Hurricane Center, they're talking between now and Friday. It's a very slow-moving storm. Storm surge, of course, also a great concern. Flooding overall is the greatest concern and most dangerous part of any hurricane. And you could see up to 10 feet in terms of the storm surge from Hurricane Debby. And so those are the things that being there in Florida. But again, just for those in the path of Hurricane Debby, just pay attention to all the advisories that come out. And they're being updated, of course, as usual, on a regular basis. So we'll keep you posted throughout the morning. It is going to be an interesting day as we get into that. We get into what's going on with Iran, watching the stock market, as you mentioned. What's going on in the Middle East could also drive the stock market. I was looking at oil prices to see if there's been any effect yet. Oil prices across the board, pretty stable right now. And that is an indication, could be an indication, that it's uncertain as to what might happen and or when. Brent crude, which is which is in fact very big in production in terms of that region, and also West Texas is very stable right now in the prices. So we'll see what the effect might be on the market from the Middle East, what's going to happen in the Middle East. And then the Democrats, as they bring it together and Kamala Harris officially becomes the nominee.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across the USA, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Wow, the Japanese stock market just getting hit incredibly hard. What, 12.4% down, right?
Yeah, they've closed.
They closed,
and
right.
It's, and that's where it ended, at down 12.4%, down over 4,400 points. Pretty incredible. You have to go back decades to find that kind of drop. The future here in the U.S. Looking less bleak than it did earlier, but still looking pretty bleak on the NASDAQ. The NASDAQ down right now just over 900. That's 4.8%. And the Dow futures down 476. That's 1.1%. For NASDAQ, it went into correction territory on Friday. Friday, not a good day. But as some of those losses here in the pre-market can be paired during the day, let's hope they are, then maybe it won't be. But a lot of this basically hinges and was triggered by the jobs report on Friday and really the growing consensus in terms of a concern about the U.S. being in a recession. And so that word, I think I told you during a break last week, I forget which morning it was, I'd heard the word recession more last week than I'd heard it from analysts in a long time. And then Friday, it was just everybody was saying it. And so now everybody's pointing to the Fed saying there's no doubt in their mind, the analysts predicting now, it seems to be a consensus that there will be a rate drop, an interest rate drop in September, but there could be quite a bit of damage between now and then as you see a number of companies, you and I were talking about Intel and what's going on there, what they want to do and how they think they can change their business model by being a white label manufacturer for companies like Apple. Apple does outsource their production of their processors, but Intel's hopeful that if they can get into the manufacturing business and do that, then they can be the go-to for companies like Apple. But that's where it's really kind of separated. And we saw it. Anybody that pays attention in the tech world, you saw this years ago, as many manufacturers, many device companies are looking at more and more proprietary control over everything, every single element. And I don't know what the future looks like for Intel. I'm not an expert. I don't know near enough to talk about it. But that's kind of the scenario where they are right now. Those are the statements that leadership at Intel has talked about. And it just has not been a good few years for them. You look at the boom from the COVID thing, the work at home thing, that was always going to be temporary. There was always going to be pullback from that. There were questions for a few months, maybe 6 months, as to whether people would work from home permanently. But one of the things that drove the back to work in the office thing was the fact that, well, we can't control our devices. We can't control any proprietary issues off campus. There are so many things they can't control that they can control inside an office. And that was always going to be a concern. And if productivity isn't the same from work from home, then people are going to have to get back to work, and that's eventually where it went. And I don't know. Intel's just one of them. You're seeing a number of companies that are laying off as a result of a number of things, but it really has to do, it goes back to inflation, the costs that we take on as consumers has us pulling back. But those costs for those raw materials or whatever they need in order to do business, they have to do the same thing. They're going to have to watch their costs, and the cost of labor is pretty massive. But in the age of states going out and raising the cost of labor, you may think that fast food workers, well, they're just doing it for fast food workers. It doesn't have an impact on other sectors. Of course it does.
Well, wait a minute. There's a headline, New York Post. California fast food workers demand another minimum wage increase.
Of course.
4 months after a $4 raise. Fast food workers in California are asking for another minimum wage hike just months after they got the $4 raise. The California Fast Food Workers Union, a branch of the Service Employees International, released a new set of demands at the first ever meeting of the state's Fast Food Council. The union is asking that wages for workers be raised to $20.70 per hour by January 1st, 2025 to keep up with the rising cost of living.
Mm-hmm.
They also called for, this is fast food now, increased job stability.
Yep.
Fair payment for owed back pay. I don't know what that means. Fair payment for owed back pay. I would just say,
what do you
I want my owed back pay.
Well,
otherwise,
that's what the law requires.
Right, the law requires that.
If you're asking for interest and other considerations, wow.
Stable schedules for workers.
Yeah, for fast food.
And a thorough investigation into what they claim are widespread pervasive abuses in the fast food industry. Mm-hmm. They claim the abuses include wage theft. Well, that's against the law. You don't need union negotiation for that.
Right.
Harassment, again, against the law. Discrimination, against the law. Hazardous working conditions, against the law. You don't need to negotiate those. Those are already in the law.
Yep.
But, yeah, so they want another raise again. And speaking about what the public wants, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
Tell me what you think about this one. We're starting fresh and new here, okay? Here we go. Voters want candidates who have a plan for addressing the national debt. According to a recent survey, the survey found that 93% of Democrat voters and 98% of Republican voters would choose a presidential candidate with a plan to address the debt over one without a plan. 95% overall, according to the Peter G. Peterson Foundation. The results were similar to congressional candidates.
Is that Mr. Peterson from Seinfeld? Let me tell you something, Elaine.
Nearly 80% of voters want presidential candidates. By the way, that is the biggest lie in a poll ever. Let me see, that you would have, that 93% of Democrat voters, 98% of Republican voters would choose a presidential candidate with a plan to address the debt over one without a plan.
Right.
95%. If you just come up with a plan to cut the debt, 95% of the public will vote for you over the other candidate.
Right. Yep. Yep.
Eric, do you buy that?
No.
Now, this isn't right, because when I read the BS Syndrome, the book, when I first got into talk radio, and it was the first guest I ever had on the air, Victor Salupe, who wrote the book, The BS Syndrome. BS was only supposed to flow from the top down to the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
This is BS coming up from the bottom up to the top.
Yeah.
And now, you think that if Trump came up with the plan, anybody think if Trump came up with a plan to cut the budget, to cut the debt, and he publicized what programs would get cut in order to balance the budget, just come up with a plan that the vast majority of Democrats would change their vote and vote for Trump?
No.
That's where the big lie comes in. That's where everybody is BSing everybody. You got to say that you want the debt, because debt's bad. We all know debt's bad, so you've got to get rid of it. How?
Well, for the left, some of them may say, well, we need to listen to, Krugman. People like that. They need to take on a Krugman type. Keynesian economics works. I want to see all the questions and all the answers from each respondent on this. I really want to delve into the methodology on this. I don't buy this for a second. Not even close. The moment you start talking about anything that has anything to do with austerity, politically, it's over. Start talking about what it would take to pay off, what it would actually take to pay off the national debt. Just throw that out, dealing with it, because
we remember the last time. The last time was Paul Ryan coming up with his plan to balance the budget, what was it, in 30 years.
Yeah.
And the Democrats screamed bloody murder.
Yeah.
That we can't do that. The cuts would be draconian. I don't believe there was one Democrat that said, well, doggone it, that Paul Ryan deserves my vote.
No. In fact, us conservatives were saying, my gosh, 30 years.
I know.
30 years.
Listen to this. Quote, as we approach the final months of the election campaign, voters want to hear more from their candidates about solutions for the $35 trillion and growing national debt, said Michael Peterson, CEO of the nonpartisan Peterson Foundation. The debt is the one issue where more than 9 in 10 Democrat and Republican voters agree that they want candidates to share plans to stabilize the debt. Between now and the election, we will add $1 trillion more to the debt, and 2025 brings several major fiscal decisions. So now is the time for a serious and sustained national conversation about solutions. Both President Joe Biden and former President Donald Trump addressed economic and spending issues at the first presidential debate in June, but neither provided a detailed plan for addressing the national debt, and neither one will.
No, you're not going to, because they know then you have to get into the details.
Right. And the public is BSing here. If Mr. Peterson actually believes that in the one there that said 95% would choose a presidential candidate with a plan to address the debt over one without one.
Mm-hmm.
Does anybody believe that? You believe that?
No. No.
That's where the people of the United States lie.
Yeah, because you're not going to see either of the major candidates float a big plan for the national debt. It's not going to happen.
According to the 2023 Center Square Voters Voice poll conducted with Noble Predictive Insights, found that 65% of registered voters would opt to cut federal spending to address the growing deficit. 14% would rather increase taxes and cut spending. The rest were either unsure or wanted to deal with the deficit in the future.
There's your 95% right there. What we meant was later. We didn't mean voting now. You mean this year? No, later. We meant 21, 24. Oh, my gosh.
Wow.
Yeah, that's no. That poll is 95% wrong.
95% of people would choose a candidate
come on,
that was addressing the national debt versus one that wasn't.
Look, I've had the dream where I wake up and that is the case. You know, it's where it's like, you know, in my dream I wake up out of sleep and then I have to wake up again for real into reality.
Well, you know what that poll proves? Where 95% of American voters claim that they would vote for the candidate that had a plan to reduce the national debt, where the majority of that 95% believe that we should have tax cuts, that the person, for example, if Trump came out, what they're saying is if Trump came out with a plan and listed his cuts, that 95% of Democrats would choose Trump instead of their candidate.
Yeah.
Now, this is the evidence, this is the proof. Without a doubt, everybody is high.
Yeah.
There is no other. There is no other reason that can be considered.
Well, what's left out here by the pollster is that 98% of the respondents followed up with a question of their own, and that question is, what is the national debt?
Yeah.
Legalize it, they said.
Legalize the national debt.
Yeah.
It is.
No, I meant weed.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Legalize.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be it. Well, we need to legalize. By the way, that's gone, isn't it?
What's that?
Remember that? Remember how long we dealt with that one? Well, if we just tax it, it'll pay off all the debt that we have. No.
Nope.
Not happening, is it?
Nope.
It'll fund everything that we need to be funded. Now, everybody will be walking around high and all the budgets will be balanced.
In fact, because of the government costs, the black market is thriving.
Yeah.
And that's your reality. Legalize it and get it competitive as hell with the cartels. Put them out of business. But what do I know?
Yeah, you got to
I'm sober, so what do I know?
Well, it's one of the reasons, we want Well, you need to stop being sober.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
I need to try
All
harder.
right. 866-90 Red Eye.
We'll be right back with more Red Eye Radio with Eric Harley and Gary McNamara.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. I'm just looking at Trump pounding on social media last night. Stock markets crashing. I told you so. Kamala doesn't have a clue. Biden is sound asleep. All caused by inept U.S. leadership.
Yeah, it is true. You're going to see this. I don't know where it goes on the futures. It's some of those losses overnight have been, some of those numbers have been paired back up, but on the NASDAQ, the Dow futures still down significantly, and we'll see where it goes during the day.
666 Dow is down, NASDAQ down 4.66, still 865. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
these are, it's... And if this is a trend and continues day after day, or even has, a few days like this, you see one of the things I was watching last week, and I saw an article just a little while ago, is how Berkshire Hathaway was really building their cash stock, selling off on a lot of long-term investments that they've had, Bank of America and Apple and others. And that's a sign because... Warren Buffett didn't get rich for no reason. He's good at looking at things.
You're listening to Red Eye Radio from the Uniden America Studios.
He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. just checking out different headlines and Fox News. Should Biden be added to Mount Rushmore? Former top Democrat weighs in.
Yeah.
As Pelosi yesterday. It's suggesting FDR be removed.
Yeah.
That's the part I love.
Right.
Well, I don't mean be removed. Well, you mentioned his name. Well, why would you say his name?
Right. Right.
Which one should be taken off?
Right.
Well, no, you put him in addition.
Uh-huh. Right. Yeah, it happens that easily. Sure.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. That's moronic.
And then the RFK Jr. story.
Don't dump a bear in Central Park. You dump bears in Upper Manhattan. What's wrong with you?
Presidential candidate.
Seriously.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr. released a bizarre video on X Sunday in which he tells comedian Roseanne Barr about the time he dumped a dead bear cub in New York City's Central Park a decade prior.
Okay, the story itself is more bizarre than the headline.
Yes. In a video, RFK and Roseanne Barr are situated around a dinner table in a home as the independent candidate tells his story. He explained that he's trying to get ahead of a story the New Yorker is working on. RFK says he was taking a group of people.
So you go to Roseanne Barr?
He was taking a group of people falconing.
Yeah, by the way, I'm sorry. You come from a dynasty if you ever say, I'm going falconing.
I had to look at the word twice. I'm like, what the hell talking
You
about?
have to have a minimum net worth to say the word falconing. I know, because right now I'm out of compliance.
Yes, and so am I. I've never personally done any falconing in my life.
Hey, dude, you want to go falconing? Yeah, listen, we were getting together. Our butlers were preparing our items for the following morning's falconing. We were about to go falconing.
He was taking a group of people falconing.
He was the falconing leader.
About a 2-hour drive north of New York City. He tells Roseanne Barr he was on his way there when a woman in a van in front of him hit a young bear and killed it. So I pulled over, picked up the bear, and put him in the back of my van because I was going to skin the bear and put his meat in my refrigerator, RFK says, as a visibly shocked Barr listens.
You shocked Roseanne Barr at this point.
He notes that the practice is legal in New York State under certain conditions.
Yeah, you have to have a tag for even roadkill. I don't know if that tag is obtainable after the fact. I don't know.
So the bear was in the back. He continued hawking.
Yeah, he put the bear in his car.
He continued hawking with it. Was that the whole thing, the Hawk Tua thing from a couple weeks ago?
Maybe. I don't know. Hey, Rob. Hey, what's that smell in your car? Yeah, it's nothing.
He continued hawking with his group of acquaintances and ended up staying late. Instead of going home, he says he had a dinner obligation in New York. Then he admits, without elaborating, that he had to go to the airport after dinner and couldn't go home. I didn't want to leave the bear in my car because that would have been bad, RFK says. He recounts how at the time, this being 2014, that there had been a series of bicycle incidents, some of which resulted in the deaths of several people. This story's just, it gets more convoluted as we go along.
I'm reading it after the fact, and I'm still screaming, stop talking. Because it just gets weirder. And so he set it up in Central Park with a bike that has his prints all over it.
Yes.
According to him.
RFK tells Barr he had an old bike in his car and came up with the idea to put the bear in Central Park and make it look like he got hit by a bike. So everyone thought that's a great. I mean, this is the. This is a. By the way, for all Democrats out there, this is the definition of weird.
Yeah. Yeah. This is weird.
So everybody thought that's a great idea. Who's everybody?
Yeah, I want to know. Let's give me a list of those people.
So
give me a number of what the consensus was that you had to build.
And I have to ask the question: was everybody sober in this group?
I doubt it.
Hey, man, let's put.
Here's what we'll do:
the bear in Central Park and make it look like he got hit by the bike.
Now, hear me out. I have a bicycle, so you got a dead bear and a bike in your car. What? We go to Central Park. Just hear me out. Nobody will think a thing. We'll go to Central Park. We'll make it look like an accident. I didn't ever see this episode of Law and Order. What do we got, Lenny? I don't know. Somebody hit a bear with a bicycle. I bet it was one of the Kennedys. Oh, you and your conspiracy theories.
So everybody thought that's a great idea. So we went and did that, RFK said, clarifying that he had not been drinking, unlike his acquaintances. Well, of course, somebody had to be drinking. Hey, what a great idea.
Were you smoking weed? Alcohol isn't the only concern here.
because it's as simple. There's a dead bear, you call authorities, and then you move on, right?
That's it.
Right? There's a dead bear in the road,
Yep.
you call authorities.
Yep.
You move on. There's a dead bear in the road.
You witness.
You call the police.
Call the state wildlife department and let them know where you are, where the bear is. Wait for them to arrive, and they'll take it from there. That happens on a regular basis.
So he said he had not been drinking, unlike his acquaintances, and we thought it would be amusing for whoever found it. Would you ever think that? If you ever I'd be thinking, I don't know what law I'm breaking at the moment here by doing this.
First of all, it would just,
what kind of wildlife
right.
law I was breaking.
Well, that's it. I wouldn't want to touch it because, again, I don't know if I'm compliant at that point. If a state trooper or state official showed up on site after I called them and they said, well, it's legal if you want it, but you have to have a tag, and I had the tag, then I could take it from there. But at that point, my falconing venture is over because I'm going to have to get to a fridge and I'm going to have to get somewhere where I can quickly field dress this animal,
yes.
And then from there put the meat in a safe place.
The prank apparently got noticed the next day, according to RFK.
Yeah.
It was on every television station. It was on the front page of every paper. I turned on the TV, and there was a mile of yellow tape. There were 20 cop cars. There were helicopters flying over it. And I was like, oh, my God, what did I do, RFK said, noting that his prints were all over the bike. Luckily, the story died after a while and stayed dead for a decade. The presidential candidate tells Barr that the New Yorker somehow found out about it, the incident, and is planning to publish an article. It's going to be a bad story, RFK said in the video.
This is going to be bad. My question is, okay, this is the stuff he's telling us.
Well, the thing is, if it was that big of a deal, like who killed and there were fingerprints on the bicycle.
Yeah. Right.
Has he not been fingerprinted?
I don't know.
Is he not in the system?
I don't know. Wow. Yeah, no,
that's the third time I read the story, and still I have problems getting through it.
Right. Yeah. It's so weird. So NBC New York posted yesterday from the archive, dead bear cub found in Central Park. This NBC New York. So they posted the archive of basically their coverage from it. From, it says 9 years ago. He says 10 years ago. But, yeah. Well, they said 2014. So, yeah, it's just weird.
Well, I've read a lot of stories, and there will be stories that I read that I will say something doesn't add up. This is one of those stories I will say something doesn't add up.
Well, that's my point. He tells us the weirdest story, and this is the stuff he's telling us. What else was involved? I've got so many questions.
Well, I think one thing he did accomplish, this may be the top Kennedy story of all time.
In terms of it being weird.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah. I don't, seriously. Conspiracy theorists were in the park that day. I bet Kennedy did it. Shut up, man. Shut up. You always say that. Because it's true, man. I bet Kennedy is behind this. Stop it. How would a Kennedy be behind a dead bear and sent? Do you know how ridiculous is that? I bet Kennedy did it, though, man. I'm right on this, man. A Kennedy did. And then he's going to be all over the news. I told my friends 10 years ago it was a Kennedy.
Something does not add up in that story.
There's right. So many holes in that story. Well, but then it got late, And then I had to get to dinner, and then, the airport, and it's like, well, we'll just put it in Central Park with a bike. It'll look like an accident.
Who are his friends? Because the first thing I'd be saying is, call the cops.
Yeah.
Call the cops. Somebody stay. Call the cops. The rest of us will go falconing or hawking.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, did they change? Is there a difference
Between falconing and hawking?
I don't think I'm wealthy enough to ask these questions, but I am curious. I don't know if it's the same. Yeah, that's just weird.
Well, here's the thing. If this, okay. Did the New Yorker find out from one of the acquaintances who blew
somebody
him in?
came out?
Yeah, because
Yeah.
how'd you find that out? I got a story for you here. Imagine being the reporter.
Right.
Huh? He did what?
Well, because it had to have been somebody close to him.
And what doesn't make sense is why you say, let's take the bear, put it in Central Park, put a bike next to it to make it look like a bike hit the bear. Why would you go through that?
Right.
You would just get rid of the damn bear.
Just put it back on the side of the road.
Yeah.
If anything.
Doesn't make any sense.
If you want to get rid of a bear, you put it in a wooded area, and then, the state wildlife department comes upon it, or somebody calls it in, and they see it, and it's like, okay, clearly it was hit by a car. The person didn't stop. They're supposed to stop, but whatever, and you found a dead bear on the side of the road.
If a Kennedy leaves a bear in the Central Park woods, I don't even know where to go from that.
Well, here's the question. Yeah, are there any other casualties we need to be looking for here? Seriously.
Just
weird.
What a bizarre story.
Just weird.
I mean, totally bizarre.
You had time to do all of that, but not to actually call and have somebody else take care of it.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
Officially.
Doesn't make sense.
Wow.
866-90 Red Eye.
Coming up, more with Gary McNamara and Eric Harley. It's Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Just see that Wall Street Journal story. We'll get to it. Fear of Trump prompted Russia to speed up prisoner swap. Fear of Trump getting elected.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it makes you wonder what else our enemies have planned between now and January 20th. We know that Iran certainly understands that Trump administration will act out. There is a history of that. But what's going to happen? This administration is allowing Iran to fund everything they have done till now since Biden's been president and anything they're going to do in the future.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One. Now, it's Red Eye Radio. Gary McNamara and Eric Harley talk about everything from politics to social issues and news of the day. Whether you're up late or you're just starting your day, welcome to the show. From the Uniden America Studios, this is Red Eye Radio.
All across America and around the world, we are Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Good morning. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you.
How's everybody doing? Huh?
We hope it's a good day. So far.
I didn't even check. Okay, we don't have another report coming for another hour.
Right. Yeah, no updates. Hurricane Debby still according to the last report, still at 80-mile-an-hour winds. Category 1 hurricane going to make landfall there in Florida, and then slowly move northeast, dumping a lot of rain over the next few days. And so you're going to see, as you do with all hurricanes, the major threat comes from high water, flooding from the rain, and also the storm surge. The storm surge could be, as of the last report, as high as 10 feet in some areas. But then that slow movement, once Debby hits land and makes her way northeast, is going to allow for a lot of rainfall in her path over the next few days. The forecast mentioning Friday, now through Friday. So, again, it is going to be certainly a very dangerous storm, and it is should be getting very close to landfall here over the next hour or two. As you mentioned, Gary, the National Hurricane Center scheduled to do another update in less than an hour. So we'll watch out for that. Keep you posted.
And last was 80, right? 80 miles an hour.
80 miles an hour. Mm-hmm.
On Friday's broadcast of CNN The Source, CNN Pentagon correspondent Oren Lieberman said that the White House and the Pentagon should have known that there was a process to try to reach a plea deal with the three defendants accused of involvement in the September 11th terrorist attacks, including accused plotter Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, that was reached this week and revoked on Friday by Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin. Had Austin or the White House wanted to stop this process and say, look, a plea deal is off the table, they could have done that at any point over the course of the past 2.5 years.
Yep, right.
We heard this entire thing on Friday that, well, there's nothing they could do. There's nothing they could do. There's nothing they could do.
Of course there is.
It's like, of course there's something that they could have done.
Yep.
So you have to believe that part of the reason for the revocation of the deal was the ferocity of the bipartisan backlash and the backlash from the victims' families when they were notified of this, and then when it was announced publicly. Host Caitlin Collins asked, the White House said yesterday that they were not aware of this plea deal until it was struck. Do we know if Secretary Austin was aware of this? Lieberman responded, the plea deal itself at this point, that much is unclear, but what we've reported and what others have reported for more than 2.5 years is that the plea deal discussions were in the works. So this should not have been a surprise to the Pentagon or to anyone else there that this process had been ongoing. The White House knew it. It was ongoing to try to get a plea deal. Had Austin or the White House wanted to stop this process and say, look, a plea deal is off the table, they could have done that at any point over the course of the past 2.5 years. And that's part of why this is such a surprise that Austin simply and quietly posted a memo in which he relieves the woman who was in charge of the military court at Gitmo and revokes the plea agreement that had gotten to this point. You have to believe that part of that was the ferocity of the bipartisan backlash and the backlash from the victims' families. They didn't see this coming because the White House knew about this, the way that they made it say, well, we didn't know anything. They work separately. We had no, and as CNN's reporting, no, that's not the case.
No, nobody bought that for a minute. Backlash drove every bit of this. Now the question is, what do you do now?
I had somebody write to me who apparently didn't listen to the entire debate that we made the other day when we were talking about the hostage. Well, it may not be good, but what else could be done? There's a ton of things that could be done, as we mentioned the other day. From diplomatically speaking, kick all their diplomats out of the country. Do whatever you can to go after the oil production that they do there. There's a ton of stuff you could do. Russia, according to the Wall Street Journal, was afraid of Trump becoming president. That's why they did the deal so quickly. Russia became more interested in a prisoner swap with the United States after it became clear that Donald Trump could return to the White House, according to the Wall Street Journal, whose reporter was freed. The Journal noted Saturday that Russia was concerned over a potential Trump presidency, which helped sped up the deal. The German negotiation team was led by the deputy chief of Foreign Secret Service, a former prosecutor who joined the intelligence agencies in 2007. Wolf's team saw an opening when their Russian counterparts said they wanted to wrap up the deal before the U.S. election in November. Officials deduce the Russians were either concerned about an unpredictable Donald Trump coming again into the presidency, or they feared that the German chancellor would no longer be willing to help a president who rarely misses an opportunity to criticize Germany. At the Republican National Convention earlier last month, Trump said, and to the entire world, I will tell you this, we want our hostages back, and they better be back before I assume office, or you will be paying a very big price. Trump has prided himself on freeing Americans held abroad without being forced into lopsided exchanges such as those the Biden administration has accepted, and which critics say provides incentives for more hostage-taking in the future, which is true. In 2018, Turkey released American pastor Andrew Brunsman after Trump threatened to hit the Turkish economy with tough economic sanctions. Russia may have preferred, according to the Wall Street Journal, to negotiate with the more pliant Biden administration. Wow. Which has shown its willingness in the past to trade valuable, even dangerous convicts for Americans held abroad. Wow. The Biden prisoner swap still left many Americans behind in Russian prisons, the Journal noted separately. Yeah, there's a ton of things you can do to stop this, but now it's becoming practice, whether it's Russia or Iran. They will just kidnap American citizens. I had somebody write and say, oh, what are they over there for? That's not the point.
Americans travel abroad all the time,
right?
But when you send the message that, hey, we can gain big things by kidnapping one of these Americans, by holding them.
We can get our terrorists back. We can get our criminals back. We can get our international assassins back. Just kidnap innocent Americans.
Right. Once you've done that, once you've sent that message, you basically then you change the tone and you change the bar drastically for every future administration. And the pressure is going to be there. The public pressure will be there for every administration. We know that Republican administrations are tougher against our enemy. But it doesn't matter to the enemy. Well, we'll just help build political pressure. And we'll keep building it and building it and building it until we get our way. We'll see what happens if Trump wins. You can look at the history of Putin, the recent history of Putin. During the Obama years, he takes Crimea. During the Biden years, he tries to take Ukraine, still trying. And it makes me wonder, then what is the next move by Putin between now and January 20th? And then what if, heaven forbid, Kamala Harris wins and becomes president? You've got a mountain of problems right now internationally, and it is a threat to all Americans abroad. And you look at the situation now in, with the Middle East. There's just no telling. There really is no telling how big of a threat the enemy is right now, not only in the Middle East to American interests, but right here on American soil.
And much of it because this administration, the Biden-Harris administration, has ensured that terrorist funding goes to Iran.
Yep.
You
Tens
know,
of billions of dollars.
The funny thing is, people used to would debate that with
Mm-hmm.
you. They don't even debate it because they know now. They know.
Yeah, right. Yeah, why? Well, I mean, we see it. I can't give you all the answers as to what motivates the Biden administration, but there is no doubt that he is in deep with the enemy, Iran and all of their proxies. You cut them off. Here's the problem. He would have to keep in place when he came in a Trump policy. And he just couldn't do that.
No, couldn't do it. Nope.
Can't do anything that Trump did. And
the other lead story would have been, we talked about the fraud at his border plan.
Mm-hmm.
The Biden border plan, the fraud, they had to stop it.
Right.
Letting people come in easy. There was massive fraud.
Right.
In it. Trump, that would have been the lead story. Trump and not taxing Social Security would have been the lead story.
Yep.
I forgot about the story on the border. There were so many things that hit that were negative to the Biden-Harris administration over the weekend. But we know what the narrative was. Let's talk identity politics, which is why we warned Trump not to go there many times. Well, if you're going to go there, go the proper way there.
You'll keep the headlines there.
Yeah.
Instead, you should have them fact-checking everything on the issues. You bombard the media, ads and everything else with everything on the issues.
Yeah.
And the fact-checking works in your favor.
Yep. You don't have to do anything. As you said, point.
Yep.
Point. That's what they're
Yep.
doing.
And that's the advantage that they have right now. It's a huge advantage, and you need to use it.
866-90 Red Eye.
Brought to you by Hot Shot Secret.
Hi, I'm Jen Loomis, a transport safety expert at JJ Keller, and I'm here to share a tip on speed and space management. When driving, you need to manage the space around your vehicle so that there's enough space to allow you to adjust when traffic conditions change. The space ahead of your vehicle is the most important and one of the easiest to monitor and adjust as needed. One rule of thumb is to allow at least 1 second for each 10 feet of vehicle length at speeds below 40 miles per hour. At greater speeds, add an additional second. It's impossible to keep other drivers from tailgating you, but there are some things you can do to make it safer, such as increasing your following distance, avoiding quick lane changes, and slowing down. There are also several things you should do to ensure that there is plenty of space between the side of your vehicle and other vehicles. Don't hug the center line, avoid hugging the right side of the road, and avoid traveling alongside other vehicles in strong winds, especially crosswinds. This tip was brought to you by JJ Keller and Associates. Visit us at jjkeller.com.
Lines open for your calls. 866-90 Red Eye on Red Eye Radio.
It's Red Eye Radio. He's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Coming up following the bottom of the hour, Chevron moving from California to Texas. Why? We'll have some interesting things to tell you about that. You know what I saw over the weekend on that I thought was really interesting on YouTube, and it was I saw one. It just had come up in Shuffle. By the way, the best money I ever spent was not to get commercials on YouTube.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
But they were showing these were developments down in Houston and one in San Antonio with houses brand new houses, smaller square footage, $130,000 to $200,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, whoa. You and I had talked about that for the longest time, where people were talking about homes, and we said, well, when my parents bought a home, it was 1,000 square foot, 900,000 square foot home. They weren't buying 3,000 square foot homes.
Well, this is
the average person. They were buying much smaller homes.
I think we've reached an era where you're looking at the practicality in terms of affordability that is also matched now by a trend with the whole tiny home thing. Well, let's face it. Most people aren't going to want to live in a tiny home.
No.
But you could scale it down, and you don't need the big home of 3,000, 4,000 feet, or even 2,000 square feet.
Yeah.
You get down to 1,200, 1,400 square feet if you have a small family, and it's affordable, and it's a great starter home. And again, you go back to affordability. Also, affordability when it comes to energy to heat and cool that home. And that's what people are looking at now. The downside is that interest rates are higher, but wait a minute for that, and there might be some good news there as interest rates might be lowered. Who knows how far? But no doubt affordability is everything now. And if home builders can get people into homes again and really spur a new trend.
Well, when they were promoting, it was there were two different videos that I saw, and I was going to search for more. I just didn't have the time.
Mm-hmm.
But the one was down by Houston, and they come with, they're turnkey.
Right.
They come with already washer and dryer, stove,
Mm-hmm.
dishwasher,
Yep.
refrigerator.
Yep.
All these things in there. Did I say washer and dryer?
Mm-hmm.
Washer and dryer.
You're appealing to renters at that point.
Yeah, and I'm like, whoa. And they're like, these are real homes
Mm-hmm.
on foundations.
Right. Yeah.
They're not tiny homes that are mobile homes.
Right.
They're real homes in real neighborhoods. And I went, and you and I talked about this for a long time, that, if people want to start buying homes, well, then manufacturers, and I think it was, what is it? Is it D.L. Horton?
Mm.
Was that I think that was the builder
Mm-hmm.
that was building them down in Houston.
Mm.
I just found it fascinating because I hadn't seen that
Right.
they were actually doing that in suburbs.
Right.
It's like, oh, okay. And in Texas, you would think that would be one place with the number of people that are moving here that they would do that in.
Yeah. If you're right now, if you look at rent and people look at rent and go, well, man, I still want a yard. I still want this, and I'm paying through the nose on this. And then a home builder comes in and says, okay, here's something smaller. But you get a home, you get a yard, and you can have your family here, and you get home ownership long term if you stay in it. So that definitely appeals to a lot of people right now.
We have a line open. 1-866-90-RED-EYE. Red Eye Radio.
And he's Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Oh, wait here.
Huh?
Lincoln,
Mm-hmm.
Teddy Roosevelt, Thomas Jefferson, and Washington.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Mount Rushmore. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. I had thought, I don't know why, because I had said FDR before, because it's after I played Pelosi. I thought she said FDR and not Teddy. She said Teddy.
Okay.
So,
all right.
I don't know why I heard FDR coming from her before.
Yeah.
So, and she was talking about Biden needs to be on Mount Rushmore.
Mm.
So she wasn't saying replacing anybody, but she did mention the name Teddy Roosevelt,
right,
implying that that you can just take him down and put Biden up.
Yeah. Right.
Oh, my God.
It works exactly like that. They have a Biden face ready to go. And the Roosevelt face, just like all of them, just snaps off, just lowered down. 3-4 hours tops. That's all it would take.
All right, here we go with economic reality.
All right.
Chevron on Friday joined the growing club. This is from the Wall Street Journal.
Mm-hmm.
The growing club of California corporations moving to Texas. And the wonder is, what took it so long?
Yeah, exactly.
The company has been in the state for more than 140 years, but Democrats in Sacramento want to put it out of business. Why would anybody stay? The list of anti-Chevron state policies include a low-carbon fuel standard, cap-and-trade fees, drilling restrictions, and a penalty on excessive refinery margins.
Mm-hmm.
To add injury to insult, the Richmond City Council has put on the November ballot a $1 a barrel tax on Chevron's refinery, one of the largest in the state. The war on the industry has caused production to fall by more than half in the last decade, and several refineries have shut down. Gasoline prices have surged $1.16 a gallon above the national average. Whenever a refinery has a problem, prices rise even more, owing to the lack of supply, sometimes above $6 a gallon. Now listen to this. Enter Gavin Newsom's Energy Commission, which is charged with investigating the causes of California's high gasoline prices.
Uh-huh.
A commission staff report last week failed to find any wrongdoing with the oil companies, but nonetheless floats state control over the refining industries. One idea is to purchase and own refineries in the state to manage the supply and price of gasoline.
Yep.
This is the state?
Yep.
Wow.
I've been saying it for years. Democrats want to get to a fully state-owned energy.
Yeah, this, by the way, that's communism, just so people understand that. At least the commission concedes that there are significant legal issues
and
then addresses that there are complex industrial processes that the state has no experience in managing.
It'll be fine.
Well, that's for sure.
Unleaded or diesel, whatever it takes. Yeah, it's all the same. Just it's fine.
But this may be one of the best things ever written in the Wall Street Journal ever.
Yeah.
Sacramento cannot currently provide basic public services such as reliable power. How would it run an industry that it wants to shut down?
Because now you're big oil if you get into it as a government.
How does California run an industry that it wants to shut down?
Yeah.
The report also wonders, oh my God,
yeah,
we're run by a nation of idiots. As demand for fossil fuel declines, will the presence of state-owned refineries inhibit an orderly phase-out of refinery capacity? So get this. The state wants to kill the oil industry.
That's right.
But it wishes to take over the oil industry.
Uh-huh.
And then the state itself questions if they take over the oil industry that they wish to shut down, that will the presence of state-owned refineries, once they exist, and you can't ever close anything down in government, would that inhibit the orderly phase-out of refinery capacity of, my God, this is worse than the United States helping to fund Iran. This is mind-boggling.
Well, it's the government, state government. So, with state jobs on the line, they would produce a total of 10 barrels a day, but have 40,000 employees.
If Democrats in Sacramento want to reduce refinery production, nationalizing the industry like Venezuela would work. But as the report says, what would drive how the state managed the refinery? Profit, maximizing production, minimizing production. These are all in quotes from the report. Wall Street Journal writes, "This is hilarious." The commission floats a moderately less insane idea to regulate oil refiners like electric utilities, with the state setting the rules of prices and the rate of return. The commission also contemplates requiring refiners to subsidize electric vehicles and prices for low-income customers. Yet green energy mandates and subsidies are why California's electricity rates are more than double the national average. Wow.
Yeah.
To ease fuel shortages caused by refinery shutdowns, the report floats hiring a trading company to increase imports and owning tankers compliant with the U.S. Jones Act to deliver fuel in a timely fashion. To sum it up, California regulators want to take over an industry in the name of mitigating the cost of their own destructive policies. No wonder Chevron is fleeing for its life. Think about that.
Yeah.
Because of the policies of California, gasoline's gone through the roof. Because of the regulation.
Yep.
So the solution would be California regulators want to take over the industry in the name of mitigating the increase in costs
That's right.
created by their own destructive policies. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Look, this is something the Democrats, I've been saying it for years, the Democrats have always wanted a state-run energy. They want fully state-controlled energy. But you can't get there without breaking the backs of energy, the private sector to begin with, just like healthcare. You have to break what's in place, and you regulate them out of business.
Does that mean Chevron's closing down everything in California?
I didn't get for certain, because they do have one refinery there. I know that they did mention that it's a $4 billion write-down. But, you know, I don't know how you keep a refinery there long-term, but moving to Houston is no small deal for them. Roughly 7,000 employees that they have. As you mentioned, they've been in California for 140 years. Here's from the Wall Street Journal. Some of Chevron's leadership has long wanted to move the company's headquarters to Texas, but it is held off largely because of its long history in California and its assets there, such as its Richmond, California refinery, according to people familiar with the matter. Chevron said in January it would write down as much as $4 billion in assets, mostly in California, citing regulatory challenges there. At the time, it warned against California's so-called margin penalty, you just mentioned that, which seeks to limit profits from the state's refiners to prevent alleged price gouging. And this is what the Governor Newsom, signed into law last year.
Even though they found no price gouging.
Right. No, it doesn't matter.
Yeah,
we'll just create new regulation anyway. We'll do it out of a sense of fairness, as Obama used to say. So I'm assuming that means refinery and everything, all of it eventually will move. But this is one more, hey, we can't afford to stay reality moment for liberals and California. California is with California Air Resources Board and what the state has done over the years. is just crushing businesses large and small.
Says the spokesperson also noted the move should not impact refining capacity or supplies. Therefore, it should not impact gasoline prices. Well, I'm sure until they're fully moved. And they said this will take 5 years to do.
Yeah, you don't, like I said a moment ago, you don't do this overnight.
Right.
But
so
it's a huge message to California or to the state of California, not the people of California. It's you see other oil companies that have kind of backed away from catering to a lot of the protests that are out there, or protesters that are out there globally. You know, they're basically getting back to this, we're going to do what we do. And that's where, by the way, the one line in that Wall Street Journal piece that you read, the dwindling demand for fossil fuels. Yeah, well, wait for it. Wait for the mandates to settle in and the reality hit, and then them realize you can't actually meet the mandate based on the timeline they've set.
No, you can't.
And while vehicles have become more efficient and energy use in terms of efficiency we've gained ground there, we still have a growing population globally. And there's going to be a global demand for oil for a long time, very long time. And the oil companies realize we're going to have to go where we're welcome, because the federal regulations are enough. But if you're doing business in a state that wants to crush your business and take everything from you, you can't stay. You can't afford to stay.
The problem is when you're a state and you start losing people, you start losing companies, then you've got to raise taxes on those that are left, which just keeps that circle of economic doom continuing.
Yep.
Because there's going to be more companies that now want to leave.
Right.
California, they're just not going to do it.
Right.
They're just not going to put up with the cost of doing business. And when you see the fast foods, fast foods have to stay. But they want another raise just a few months after they got the $4 raise. It's not enough. The union wants more for fast food workers.
Yep.
What does that do to business? Long term.
Right.
Fast food. I don't know. I've just seen over the weekend a couple more stories about restaurants out there and how expensive it is.
Yeah, it is.
866-90 Red Eye.
Get in touch with Red Eye Radio, toll free at 866-90 Red Eye.
It's Red Eye Radio. He is Eric Harley, and I'm Gary McNamara. Yeah, so you were saying that Chevron also saying the climate lawsuits, the California climate lawsuits, another reason that they're
and
California.
And there are some that are not based in California, these lawsuits. They're really across the U.S., but when you look at it, the question is, all right, if you go after Chevron, because this would be my question, do they hope to get a friendlier court if their headquarters is in Texas?
The jurisdiction, yeah.
And that could well be the case, friendlier to the oil industry. They're moving to the oil industry capital of America, Houston. And so that may be part of the play there.
This is Red Eye Radio on Westwood One.